Okay, hello and welcome to this series of introduction videos to MATLAB. This series is for complete beginners, so if you have any experience programming before, or I'm familiar with MATLAB to an extent, then this probably isn't for you because there's going to be some really basic stuff in here. However, if you want to stick through that and maybe learn something, then by all means stay with me. So this is the MATLAB IDE. And the IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. Now yours might look a bit different to mine because you can move these windows around like that and resize them and such, but I like to have mine like that. There we go. Now this here, the first bit, is the command window, which basically is where all your outputs are going to come to a kind of an extent, and you can run simple commands in there. We'll come back to that in a sec. This is the current folder, so wherever you are saved at the moment, this, that is going to be up there, and these are the folders in it. And this is just some stuff I have from university, but you can inspect the documents in there to an extent, but it's not great. And then this is the workspace, which will show all the variables that you have saved at the moment. Now, so what's a variable? A variable in programming is a space, essentially, in the RAM that we have saved a value. Now, because we're not computers, it's much easier to save things with a name. So, variable name, if you're doing some analysis of a car, you might have velocity, mass, engine power, things like that, and you can call them whatever you want. So quick example of this is a equals 3 here. Now as you see, it's output that a is equal to 3, and in the workspace we see that a is now appearing with the value of 3. Now in the command window, we don't want it to print that every time we have a variable. That can be quite annoying, so if we do a equals 4 and a semicolon at the end, that basically tells MATLAB not to output it, but as we can see over here, it has indeed updated the value of a. It's now equal to 4. Another good command to have is clear, and that just clears everything. So if we just run a script, it's actually good practice to put it at the start of a script, so that if you run multiple after each other, it clears all the variables. So because if you have a big complicated script, you could have hundreds of variables here, and you don't want the computer getting confused and calling the wrong value in a loop or something. So let's look at some very basic things that we can do with variables. In this case, we just declare a equals 3 again, and then b equals 4. See how they both pop up over there on the left in the workspace, and then we can add, so we can make c equals a plus b, and then now c equals 7 here. Now, what I've done here is I've made 3 integer type variables. Now, an integer is a whole number, so it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or minus 1, 2, blah, blah, blah. You get the picture, but it doesn't have a decimal point. Now, if I wanted to have a decimal point, that's not a problem at all. I can just go a equals 2.3, and there we go. A is now equal to 2.3, as you see up here. Now, in programming languages, such as C-based languages, you often have to go int a equals 3 or double a equals 2.3, and that you're basically declaring the type of variable that it is, and you can't then change it. So you can't, if you declare it as an int, you can't then change it to a double or a float, which are basically just variables with decimal points in. And one of the great things about MATLAB is you don't need to worry about any of that. It handles all that for you, and you can change the variable type. The other type of variable that's important is a string. So a string is a series of characters, and so for example, we made the string str equals to test. Now, what happens if I add a to str? Well, it does do addition with strings in MATLAB, but it just sticks them onto each other. So if I do it just becomes 2.3 test. And I can now just do and there you go, just test. So nothing too exciting here. There are other types of variable which is called an array. An array is basically just a list. So if I then do a new variable here called array, and I make it equal to this, and then I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I go there. See how it's made an array, a matrix. That is 1, 2, 3. It's it's a 3 by 3 with those values in. An easy way to think of an array is we can now call. So if we plot this array, let's just quickly plot this array. So it's a 3 by 3 array, and it's 3 boxes. 3 boxes by 3 boxes. Now these boxes each have an address. So this here would be 1, 1. Now in lots of programming languages, the top left would be 0, 0. But MATLAB isn't a traditional programming language. It's not made to be a traditional language. So it's 1, 1, as you would think about it normally. And then it goes across here, so it'll be 1, 2, and then 1, 3. It might actually be the other way around. Those the other way around. I can't remember off the top of my head. And such and such down here, same thing. So this would be 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, and then until here you have 3, 3. So I don't want to say. So now what I can do is I can perform individual actions on the entire array. So if I do array equals array plus 1, see how everything in here has become 1 more. So if I want to do that again, let's just go back to the other. So I just make it array plus 1. It goes it performs that action on every single element of the array. But what I can also do is I can do it on an individual element. So if I go array 2, 2 equals array 2, 2 plus 5, it now becomes 10 there. So and you can have an array of strings. Array can be you can have 3-dimensional arrays, you can have 4-dimensional arrays. 4-dimensional arrays are a bit complicated to think about. I don't personally ever use them, and I find it best not to think about them because they confuse me. And in these basic tutorials, we're certainly not going to be dealing with 4-dimensional arrays. So there you have it. Those are the basics of MATLAB and variables, and going forward we'll start looking at conditional statements and loops, and then we'll come back in the end to put it all together and make a basic program that can do some arithmetic based on some variables and things that we give it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.